I remember my Kookum mentioning this. She would say, when we were sitting there in our living room, we weren't making eye contact, we were bowing our heads, listening, just like they do in ceremony. She would often emphasize that as we're walking this sacred path, you're put here, you're walking down your journey, you're getting older, you're learning how to walk, how to run, how to pace yourself through life. You're gaining skills, tools, you're learning hard lessons, you're learning stuff about yourself. People come into your life to help you. People come into your life to push you off that road. Circumstances come, life events like the pandemic, either to help you or to push you in a different direction. She would say, all this stuff that comes down our path, oftentimes the biggest opportunities that come into our life, the biggest blessings, come in the form of a problem, a challenge. But so few people, when they go through a problem, a challenge, they look for an opportunity to grow. Here's one thing I know. I've done over 1,000 presentations since 2010. I used to speak in elementaries, high schools, campuses, nonprofits, all of the communities. I spoke in most of the communities across this country that come from First Nations reserves, all the way down to the US, beyond the borders. Here's what I know. I've met with a lot of leaders. The leaders who become who they were born to become have the constant ability to embrace challenges in a positive way up here first. Up here, it's a mindset that has to be conditioned over time. It's a learned mindset. Because when we're children, all we see is what's in front of us. And sometimes what's in front of us may not help us in the future. So we have to go back and learn and tweak some things, work through things, heal through things. How we view challenges, problems, obstacles help us to grow into the future. I'll give you an example of this. When I was in grade 3, by the time I was in grade 3, my mother, we finally got a little 2-bedroom house about 1 kilometer away from my Kookum's house. We were staying in our living room. When we got to that house, my mom made it very clear that she was sacrificing a lot for me. And for me, I felt very special, not only because I was the only male sibling in the house, but I had my own room when we got that 2-bedroom house. She said, "Son, there's your room." And I thought, wow, I was so happy. I had first time my own room. And I remember putting my stuff there, my Ninja Turtles backpack. Remember that show, 90s? Ninja Turtles toys, and I remember putting it there. And I remember I went back to the living room. My mom was making a bed on the couch, and my mom said, "Kendra, Fair, Mersha, you can have that other room." So my 3 sisters shared a room. And I remember I was feeling guilty. I felt, a little bit sad. I said, "Mom, where are you going to sleep?" She's like, "It's okay. I'll sleep right here on this couch." And she slept there from grade 1 till I graduated high school. Sacrifice. We're all here because someone sacrificed for us. We're all here because someone that maybe we didn't even get a chance to meet, part of our bloodline, helped us to allow us to do what we're doing here today. I always give credit to those ones who I haven't met before my time. Like I said, I started out today, I said I shouldn't even be here with you today. Statistically speaking, you look back at every Indigenous statistic that you see out there, here's what I know. If you look at the stats of who's coming in for medication, coming to your counter, you'll see a lot of them are Indigenous peoples across this country, especially amongst the prairies. 2 main places I see a lot of my relatives, Walmart and the hospitals. That's sad. What I'm sharing with you, my friends, is there's challenges out there, real lives that are at stake out there. I was so honored when I was asked to come and share some messages of hope. Akamimuin, miuichituin, sakituin, to help us to move forward in a loving way, to help see each other as brothers and sisters, as allies. I don't know what you're going through, but here's what I can share with you. Everyone is here and chosen to be here in this moment. Everyone is going to go through problems, challenges, obstacles to help make them become who they're meant to become. Every successful leader has to go through challenges to earn the right to sit where they're sitting. Every successful leader goes through that. Every successful person I've met has gone through something that built them into something. When I was in grade 3, my mom put me on a bus that took me off the reserve for the first time. It's the first time I left my reserve. Everything I knew was on the res. And here I went off the res to a little farming community called Cut Knife. And I remember getting the cut knife, and everyone talked differently. I got off the bus, I'm like, man, everyone's talking about different things. I didn't know nothing about farming. But they talked a lot about their crops, their farm, the stuff they're working on, how much rain they got last night. And I remember on the soccer field at recess, I want to go play with these kids. I really want to go play. And suddenly, I finally got the courage after a few days of listening to conversations at recess, at lunch. I went up to these kids and I said, hey guys, can I play with you guys? And they kind of just didn't really talk to me. I remember I went in, I kicked the ball with them back and forth, and I said, hey guys, how's the farm doing? How's the crops? Lots of rain, right? And these guys are like, hey, this guy gets us, he really gets our lingo. And I remember I was like, man, I'm finally making friends now because I took the time to understand them. But here's the beautiful thing that took place. You see, we're going to meet people every day. We're working with people. We're creating prescriptions and so on. And when the people come into that moment, we may be missing an opportunity to create a meaningful conversation that is beneficial for you, but also for that other person. These conversations blossom into something beautiful. This was the first time, as far back as I can remember, where we created indigenous awareness during this time on the soccer field at grade 3. They started asking me questions. Kendall, where are you from? Well, I'm from Sweetgrass First Nation. And he's like, okay, what's your dad do? I was like, I don't have dad. Okay, what's your mom do? Well, we're living on welfare. There's no jobs back home. There's no ECDEV back home. We're living on welfare. Okay, well, how do you guys pay for things? Well, we're living on assistance. We have to collect cans and bottles. The pawn shop, we go there all the time to pawn my belongings. We have to collect cans and bottles. We have to catch the bus to and from. I have to take medical taxis to get to the city for orthodontic appointments, for medical appointments, and so on. Our water used to turn brown every single week. You see, even in this country, there's still a lack of clean water in our communities, lack of infrastructure, lack of training. So I went through all this stuff. And when I would share this with my friends, they got really intrigued because they weren't used to hearing this stuff. And it brought out one of my best childhood friendships with a child from South Africa. His name was Johan. Johan was a kid, we both had similar interests. His dad and his mom brought him here from South Africa. His dad was a doctor at the local clinic. And me and Johan became best friends on the soccer field. One day, Johan said, hey, Kendall, why aren't you playing soccer after school? And one day, I just opened up to him. I said, Johan, the bus just pulled up right after school. I said, Johan, that bus right there, that's my only ride to and from the res. And I told him everything I just told you, what we were going through at that time. And Johan told his mom and dad that night. From that moment, he comes the next day at school. He said, Kendall, I told my parents what you told me, and we're going to help you out. I was like, what do you mean help me out? He's like, well, my parents are going to pay for your fee to play soccer. We're going to drive to your res to pick you up. Where do you live, by the way? This is before Google Maps, by the way. I had to write it on a piece of paper. Actually, time out real quick. I shut my phone off because one time I was doing a keynote, I was hitting a story like this, and all of a sudden, Siri came on, and she's like, yeah, do that. It was the creepiest thing I've ever experienced. Honest, true story, I'm not lying. The creepiest thing. So I always shut my phone off during the engagements and so on. So Johan and his family, sure enough, they show up to my res, they pick me up. I'm playing soccer from grade 5 to grade 7. During this time, Johan, his dad, became my role model, who was also named Johan. So it got confusing some days. So Johan Sr. became a role model to me. And he used to say simple things like, hey, Kendall, good job today. Hey, Kendall, I like the way you're dressed today, young man. Keep it up. Hey, Kendall, really good job today. Encouraging me through words, and I felt them. Have you ever heard something or a story, something said to you, and you really felt it. That feeling right there is powerful. Now imagine if we all took the time to do that amongst our colleagues, our loved ones, the people that we come in contact with. Imagine what those words can help another person to see another day, to be hopeful, to achieve a goal, to keep going to school, to keep trying in life, to start that business, maybe walk in the same footsteps as you. By the time I was in grade 7, Johan and his family had to move away. During those next 2 years, Johan and his family got a chance to meet my family. We became very close. Johan's dad was a very driven individual. My first book, Driven to Succeed, the word driven comes from him. I used to watch this man wake up. He'd be studying textbooks. He used to wake up. He'd be there for his children. He used to wake up. He was there for his wife. He used to wake up. He was there for his community as a doctor. And I thought, man, I was only 10, 11 years old at that time. I remember thinking, he's so driven. I want to be like Johan's dad one day. Whatever I decide to do, I want to be like him. Made a decision. Whatever I do, I want to be like Johan's dad. Grade 7 comes around. Johan and his family had to move away. Johan's dad going to the next step in his studies. Right before Johan's family moved away, their parents gave my mom a set of car keys. They gave us the backup vehicle they weren't going to take with them to the city. Now my mom is driving me to play soccer because we never had transportation. From grade 7 to grade 9, I was playing after-school activities. By the time I was in grade 10, I went to a different school. In grade 10, I didn't realize that I was going to continue to play sports. We were still driving the same vehicle. Grade 10 to grade 12, I played volleyball, soccer, badminton, all type of sports. And it kept me focused on something positive. Oftentimes, when we're going through stressful times in our life, when we're going through challenges, hardships, here's what I recommend to everyone here today. Create little things in your family life, your personal life, of something to look forward to every single week. These little mini goals will help you stay motivated through the toughest times. It could be something as simple as we're going to go to a movie every Friday, or every other Friday, or once a month. It could be something as a trip together. It could be something as treating yourself on Amazon. It could be anything. These little things help you to see forward another day. And Johan's family did that for me. I was able to look forward to playing sports all the way through high school. And in high school, I had no opportunities beyond that. I had never had the 80s, 90s, but sports kept me going.